Two thoughts. You can pick which one you want to put up. But when we raised our Series B, I think it was the weirdest raise I've ever done because it was during like the resurgence of COVID and everything was virtual. I've never done that before. Like I'm usually the person that's like sitting in a coffee shop trying to meet them in person, not letting them go until we've had a personal connection or we both decide to walk away. So it was super odd. I'd say the recommendation, and I don't think that's necessarily going to fully change. Hopefully we'll come back to real world again, but I think a lot of our conversations will be virtual. I mean, we're having one now. The recommendation for an entrepreneur going through that, especially non-seed, where relationships are actually more important in the seed than in the A or B. But when you get less and less relationships so farther along in your journey, I think it's still the same. So the importance is don't get sucked into the Zoom business conversation. Make sure you still create a connection. Make sure you still think about it. And that sounds easy, but it's actually really hard to do. The second recommendation, similarly, but I give to all the folks that I talk to that are on any part of their journey, because I've raised probably over 400 mil in my life, something crazy, is it's not numbers game, it's sequencing. This is my favorite recommendation. So every entrepreneur goes out there, and I've even gone through YC and seen it. Like you try to talk to as many VCs as possible and investors, all you do is end up collecting no's, and then it gets harder to raise. Your goal is to sequence, like to find the people you think are the best ones to talk to, and then find an ordering and a pattern that you can learn along the way and get the feedback like we were talking before to make sure when you get to the right investors that you know what you're talking about and you're ready for them. So it's more about focus and less about numbers. If you focus, you will raise because you're breeding confidence, you know your answers, and you know your audience. And when you don't have all three of those, it gets harder, and that's where the number games always fails. So like for this B, I'll give huge kudos to Tim, who actually introduced me to the lead. But it wasn't a numbers game. I built the whole list with all of it, but then I just filtered it. And Tim gave me a couple off the list of really warm intros. And it worked magically. So thanks, Tim.
Well, it was a lot about relationship building. So me and my co-founder, Nicola, did this together. He definitely was leading it, where we spent a year just meeting funds and getting to know them and sort of saying, okay, beginning of June, we're going to raise. So we time blocked it because it became a huge job for us in addition to our other product building responsibilities, but it's extremely important and valuable. So yeah, we spent a year just having coffee chats, meeting people. It was actually all done virtually because of the timing of when our company was started. So it was all over Zoom. But you know, everyone was afraid to meet people, so it was fine. But yeah, it was just relationship building. And then we said, okay, at the beginning of June, this is when we're raising. We picked a small group, the focus section of these are our group of people that we want to meet. We'll set meetings with them, and then by the end of 10 days, we had a term sheet. So yeah, it was focused because it's a backwards focus thing. But we met so many people. We were dating for a long time, but then we were ready to go the next step. And there we go.
That sounds like the dream.
But, you know, we prepared, just like Eric said, we prepared. We knew the answers to the questions because we were time boxed. Okay, how do we phrase this better? And it was the same, it was a pattern. And then it became just an engine. But obviously with the relationship and knowing the people, having met them multiple times before. So it was ditto to what Eric said.
So I definitely want to echo, what Eric and Yasmin said around, really kind of relationship building and focus is key. I think for us, we just closed our Series A round 2 months ago, less than 2 months ago, actually. And I think one of the core learnings I've had, which is more of a double click on what Eric and Yasmin are saying, is that, investors invest in lines, not dots. And what that really means is that as a part of that relationship building exercise with an investor, what you want to do is you want to carry them, you want to bring them along for the journey as much as you can, right? But everything from kind of like what's going fantastically well to what's not going so well that they could potentially help you with before they make that, that investment decision, I think is a really great way to build that relationship. For both our seed round, which we closed, August 2021, and as I mentioned, our Series A, which we closed in March, we just kept prospective investors in the loop throughout our journey. and that allowed us to unlock, kind of have pretty quick processes with them. So I'd say, really focus on building that relationship and kind of knowing that investors are investing in lines, not dots, right? I think the one thing I'd kind of say is, obviously there was one market condition that's made that very easy to do at a rapid clip. Obviously, the market has changed now, and I think one of the some of the key advice that Nahal has given me, one of the core things is saying, he's like, hey, what is the next milestone for you to unlock your Series B, and then take about 20 to 30% of your capital, and just imagine that that's all you have access to, and just try to build, kind of try to get to that next milestone using that versus kind of diving into all your capital, which I think is smart. Because I think one of the great things about this coming area that I'm very excited about is that you can really focus on actually building fundamentally good businesses as well, right? And so I think that's also so great for a lot of entrepreneurs now that may have raised a pre-seed, they're going to raise their seed, their Series A, is really thinking about, like, hey, how do you kind of work on building a fundamentally good business that could weather the storm, right? Because ultimately, similar to like the 2000 crash, when amazing companies came out of that, to the '08 crash when companies like Uber and Airbnb came out of that. A lot of it is about, like, how do you build a great business that can kind of weather the storm? Because, like, once the storm is over, that's when the
I
kind of
agree.
real
It's kind of
advantages start
cyclical.
accruing.
Like this is the right time to start, even though it feels like it's the worst time.